Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brian Hanley. Welcome to Steelers Almighty. Man, we got a good show here for you today. The Steelers are in the playoffs. The season's not over. I know a lot of people want to talk about off-season stuff, but I'm not doing that yet, people. I'm just not going to do that yet. I'm not giving up on the season. It's not that I'm overly optimistic or anything that the Steelers are going to win. I do have hope. There is hope. But we've got all offseason to talk about the offseason. There's no reason to rush it. We're going to have a ton of content for you guys, so we might as well talk about what's relevant right now, so we're going to get into that. First things first, did they overachieve during the regular season? Did they overachieve, for what the Steelers have going on? I think maybe they possibly did, but we'll get into that. But did they overachieve? Then next up, what is the blueprint for the Steelers to actually win a Super Bowl? Like, for them to win a Super Bowl this year, I'm not talking about in the future or anything like that. I'm talking about this year. What does it look like? I know a lot of you that there's no way they can win it. Yeah, there's a way. What is that blueprint for the Steelers to actually win a Super Bowl? Then, are the Ravens the ideal playoff opponent in round one? On the big show that we talked about that with Big G, I asked him that question. I said I'd bring it up today on the podcast. It's what we were going to talk about. Are they the ideal opponent for the Steelers to play? And then last but not least, does Pickens have a future in Pittsburgh? Now, I know I said I'm not talking about, the offseason stuff, but it's kind of relevant as to right now. Does Pickens actually have a future in Pittsburgh? So we're going to go through all of that and break everything down for you guys. We appreciate you for what you do. Again, Steelers Almighty. You can find us on youtube.com/Steelers Almighty. Anywhere that you get a podcast. Make sure if you like the audio version that you subscribe to Steelers Almighty, and also on all social media platforms, you can find Steelers Almighty. Thank everybody for that. Memberships are now up and available. So make sure everybody, you go and you sign. There's always a link in the comment section, link in the video, also on the page. Hit that join button to become a member. We've got several different options for you guys to join and be a member of Steelers Almighty and basically be a partner with us. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first things first. Did the Steelers overachieve this year? Myself, and you guys go back and check the videos at the beginning of when we started Steelers Almighty, is I thought the Steelers were going to end up being 11-6 this year. I thought they were going to lose those 3 games that we did. Philadelphia, Baltimore, Kansas City. I thought the Steelers would lose, but I thought they would win the last game against Cincinnati. How we got to that point, I thought was going to be a little bit different. Some of the games that we lost, I thought we'd win. Some of the games that we won, I thought we would lose. But you know how a NFL season goes. But did they overachieve even being at 10-7 this year? Well, let's take a look at what the Steelers have. First things first, an unproven offensive line. Not only was the offensive line unproven, it also dealt with the injury bug. 2 starters gone. Now, I'm not going to count Herbig as one of the starters that was gone because Zach Frazier was going to take that job from him. But there is no way in hell that you believed that Mason McCormick was going to take the job from James Daniels. Okay? And that was early. And a lot of people are like, man, James Daniels, I forgot. Yeah, he got hurt early in the season. He was a starter, playing well, played pretty good last year. So we had to make a replacement there. Then, Mike Tomlin basically came out and told us after the Broncos game that the job was going to be Troy Fautanu's if he had been healthy, that the right tackle job was his. And as soon as he got healthy enough to play, he immediately went into the starting lineup. Immediately. So, and then he got hurt the next week. So that's 2 guys that you are counting on to be your starter, and those guys are gone. Now, how good the line would have been anyway, I don't know. Maybe it looked better. Look, we've seen Dan Moore just take a nosedive after he played pretty good football the first 8 games of the season. He has taken an absolute nosedive. Yeah, we played better competition, but he's played bad. He has, unfortunately. I thought this might be a big payday for him if he continued to play that way. Maybe not for the Steelers, but for somebody. And it still might be, but I don't think it's going to be near as what we thought it could be after the first half of the season. But the line is unproven. Broderick Jones had his struggles. McCormick had his struggles. Frazier played well, although he didn't play well this last game. Siamalu's been okay. But the line basically has been an unproven commodity this season. The next thing up, quarterback. I mean, we didn't even know who the hell the quarterback was going to be. Now, Mike Tomlin basically, he told us that it was Russell Wilson from the start. But I thought a lot of people, myself included, thought it would be a real battle on who was going to be the starter, that Justin Fields would have a real opportunity. Heck, I was on record and said, I think Justin Fields needs to win the job because if he does, he'd be the quarterback for the Steelers for the next decade. Well, it turns out he didn't win the job. Hell, it turns out that they didn't even really give him a opportunity to win the job, that this was Russ's job all along. Okay, fine. But still, there was a mystery because you didn't know how Russ was going to play because he had the horrible year, the 1 year in Denver. Then he had the okay year. He's coming here brand new. We didn't know. We had no idea what we were going to get. And it was definitely a mixed bag as far as Russ. Played pretty well early, really struggled over the last 5 games. Wasn't the same Russ that we had seen. So that's a problem. Lack of offensive weapons. Yeah. Everybody was talking about it. We were complaining about it. We were asking, what are the Steelers going to do? Are you going to go out another wide receiver, another complimentary piece? Steelers never did that. They never did. They just said, you know what? We've got Pickens. We've got Freiermuth, and we're going to ride with it. Calvin Austin is a good complimentary piece. But if we're being honest, as far as Pittsburgh Steelers are concerned, we never were able to get another legitimate number 2 wide receiver. I mean, if you just go to the stats, if you just look at them as far as receiving, Calvin Austin has 36 catches on the year. That's technically your wide receiver number 2. I'm sorry, people. That's not good enough. You know that, and I know that. And that's not a knock on Calvin Austin. That's not a knock on him at all. So I don't want anybody to misconstrue that I'm trying to knock Calvin Austin. But a lot of it's the offense. A lot of it's the line play, the quarterback play, the play calling, But some of it is Calvin Austin. He's a number 3. He's not a legitimate number 2, and that's okay. But they never were able to go get that. Even when they brought in Mike Williams, they were just never able to go and get guys to be that number 2 receiver. So with all of that, when you put all of that together, unproven offensive line, absolute mystery as far as the quarterback is concerned, wide receiver, or just lack of overall weapons and real weapons. When you put all of that together, not to mention some of the injuries that we had to deal with on defense, did we overachieve? I think the answer, we'll go to the poll question and we'll let you guys answer it. So let's go to the poll. Was the Steelers 10-7 season above or below your preseason record prediction? A, above, B, below. And for me, it was below. It was 1 game below. But again, you always have to factor in injuries because injuries are a part of not just football, all the sports. You just don't know where they're going to happen. You have no clue where these injuries are going to happen and when. So having said that, I kind of think that the Steelers did overachieve. But you guys answer. Is it A, above, or B, below? Let's move on. So the Steelers are in, that for sure. Now, how do they move forward? Like I mentioned, we're going to talk about the Ravens here in a minute. Are they the ideal, opponent for the Steelers? But right now, what is a blueprint for Pittsburgh to go out and win a Super Bowl this year? And I know there's going to be plenty of you that say there's no way they can't win it no matter what they do. Yeah, there's actually a way. There is a way. I mean, we've seen a Steelers team be the number 6 seed previously and go on and win a Super Bowl. Now, I would be willing to say that that team had a lot of things on it that this Steeler team didn't. Number one, competent quarterback play, better offensive line, better defense. I mean, there's a lot of things that that team had that this team doesn't have, but there's still an avenue to be able to get there. Number one, the defense has to regain its form. You know, we've seen the defense over the last couple of weeks take a dip. You know, now the Bengals game was maybe getting back in the right direction because while you gave up 314 yards, you know, the Bengals are averaging 400 yards a game. They're averaging, we were the only team to keep them with under 20 points. We kept them to 1 touchdown and 4 field goals. So I thought the defense did all they could. So maybe that's a springboard into the playoffs on what we might be able to see. Because if the defense can regain their form, make teams one-dimensional like we had for the better part of the season, or at least for the first half of the season, make them one-dimensional, get after the quarterback, cause turnovers, and that's another thing the Steelers haven't done. Again, we did a better job against the Bengals. Cause havoc, fumbles, intercept, just make the turnovers, actually capitalize. You know, that 3-game stretch, although we got some turnovers against the Eagles, the offense just couldn't do anything with it. But against the Ravens, we caused them, but we couldn't recover them. Same thing with the Chiefs. We tip passes, fumbles, but we can't get on top of the football to give our offense short fields. We weren't able to take advantage of that. You know, when you're dealing with the type of offense and maybe some of the deficiencies that it has, sometimes you need a short field to take advantage of. And we weren't able to do that in those games. We got to get back to that. So that's one thing. Got to force those turnovers. You know, play ahead of the sticks. Too many times the Steelers, and I know we've talked about on first down, just the constant running on first down and some of the play calls. Got to get ahead of the sticks, man. Even if it's a short, quick pass, get it to 2nd and 6. Even I'll take 2nd and 7, but I can't live with 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9 constantly because that doesn't help. We're not that explosive of an offense. We can't be behind the sticks. We've got to play in front of the sticks. So when it's 3rd down, we can convert first downs when it's 3rd and 3. That's what we need to be looking at. When it's 3rd and 3 or less, getting those first downs. Then you can play in front of the sticks. You've got more things that you can do as far as play calling. Now, I know they haven't done that as calling in the past, but yeah, these are some of the things that the Steelers just need to do. And then we got to get lucky with health. If we got to get lucky with health, we got to get people at least as healthy as we can. And it seems like we might be there, but throughout the entire playoffs, if we try to make a run, we can't have guys, you know, getting hurt. Now, again, you can't predict injuries. You don't know when those things are going to happen. So that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you just need the football gods, I should say, to help you with health. Those are things that we've got to get help with. Because staying healthy during the playoffs is a sure way to try to make the playoffs. Without that, it almost becomes impossible if you're going to have to deal with a ton of injuries, especially to our offensive line. We haven't been able to get over that injury bug all year. McCormick, broken hand. I mean, Jiminy Christmas. It's just one after another. But hopefully, he can play and we can start to get a little bit healthier when it comes down to. But that's basically what it is. Defense has got to regain their form, you know, make teams one-dimensional, get after the quarterback, force some turnovers, play ahead of the sticks on offense. Oh, also, we also got to be aggressive on offense. We got to be aggressive. If we're not going to be aggressive, then it's not going to work. The constant, the conservative play calling, that's not going to work in the playoffs. Sorry, it just won't. And we got to get lucky with health and have the football gods help us. So let's go to the poll question, people. So, do you give our Steelers any chance of making it to the Super Bowl? A, yes to, or B, no to? Do you give the Steelers any chance whatsoever of making it to the Super Bowl this year? I still think there's hope. It's faint. If you had to put percentages on it, I would say it's probably about anywhere between 5 and 8% that the Steelers can make a playoff run. Of anybody, they have the longest odds of all 14 teams that are in the playoffs. The Steelers have the longest odds. So, yeah, I would say between 5 and 8%. And I'm not sure I would go over 5% of them making it, but 5% is enough. 5% is enough, people. So let's move on. We are at halftime. So I want to thank everybody for all the support that you guys have shown Steelers Almighty. Again, I say this every week, but I'll continue to say it. We started April 4th of 2024, so it hasn't been quite a year since we started this channel, and we are just over the 5,600 subscriber mark. So you guys have shown up and shown out like you always do, man. The support that you guys give us each and every week, we can't thank you enough. The engagement that you guys have in the comments section, whether you agree or disagree, we absolutely love it, man. Absolutely love it. Here's our weekly schedule. You see it. Our weekly podcast, obviously, that's on Wednesday. Scouting report is on Friday. Live pregame and postgame shows. The pregame, 45 minutes before the show or before the game, and post game 15 minutes after the game. So that will still be on Saturday of this week. So I know we play late. We're going to be on late. So everything, we're not going to change that schedule. We'll be on late on Saturday. So make sure you guys show up for both of those. And then the report card, that'll be out on Monday. And we might do it early, but I doubt it. It'll probably still be Monday because football, everything will still be on the schedule. So, and then the All 22, we'll get that out on Tuesday. And then the big show is also on Tuesday evening. We had a big turnout, our biggest turnout so far since we started the big show yesterday. So make sure you guys come. That's a fun live show with me and Big G. Can't wait for the off season to get to dive even into more of that, man. It's going to be a lot of fun with Big G, man. Now, look, our memberships are also available now. Memberships came out. Art's baby doll was number one. She was our first member, and she is our first Hall of Fame member. We got a multitude of things that we have as far as memberships, all 22, live in-game. Well, look, we gave you guys last week and showed you what the in-game coverage is going to be like. That was a one-time deal. That is for our Hall of Fame members only. So if you want to be in the room, in the live chat during the game, you got to sign up. If you want the all 22, we just dropped the all 22, the entire football game. That is in our members only section as well. It's at the all pro level or higher. There's several different tiers that you can join. So make sure you guys sign up. There's a link. Also a tab at the front of the Steelers Almighty page. Make sure you guys join and get signed up for memberships, because once the off season hits, there is going to be a ton of stuff in that section for you guys. So make sure you guys sign up, man. And for all of our audio listeners, there's also going to be a link in the episode description. So make sure you guys check that out as well. Again, we appreciate everybody and all the support that you have given to Steelers Almighty. Let's get back to the show. So next up, are the Ravens the ideal playoff opponent for the Steelers? You know, I went back and forth on this. But the one thing is they're extremely familiar. I mean, we play them twice a year. Hell, we're playing them 3 times this year. We've done that in the past. The coaches have been there the same amount of time. We're so familiar with what they do. They're familiar with what we do. The travel isn't going to be anything that people aren't used to. The weather isn't going to be anything that we aren't used to. I mean, it's the same weather in Baltimore that it is in Pittsburgh. So if we had to play somebody, I would say that they are the ideal team. Now, look, I wanted no part of Buffalo. I don't want any part of going to Buffalo. I just don't that's not ideal for what the Steelers have this year. Didn't want any part of that. Going to Houston, I think may have been an easier game because I don't think Houston is near as good as what the Baltimore Ravens are. I don't think they are. Um, but I think that this just being so familiar makes it easier. Again, the scout is easier with the Ravens because we number one, we played them twice this year. Wasn't that long ago that we played them, so the scout and the preparation is going to be easier. And I just think having that familiarity makes it easier for the Steelers. Also, let's not forget this: the last game not included, the Steelers have been highly successful against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, even if you take last game into account, the Steelers have won 8 of the last 10 times, you know? So, and if we're being honest, the last game wasn't just some blowout. I mean, we were in the football game until we weren't. The game wasn't just some blowout. Now, we can't do the same thing that we did last time. I'll get into that when the scouting report comes out. But we can't just let them run it down our throat and have Lamar Jackson have all day and all that kind of stuff. We can't have all that. But as far as success, I mean, you don't have to look too far to say, oh, the Steelers have beaten the Ravens. They know how to beat the Ravens. They've done it in Baltimore. So this is not impossible task that we're talking about here. And as far as that goes, we dive into the next subject here is the Ravens have all the pressure because look, all the talk is Lamar Jackson hasn't been to a Super Bowl, hasn't won a Super Bowl. People, now I think this is actually ridiculous. People are talking about Lamar Jackson, his 2 MVPs don't mean anything. Like they mean nothing unless you win a Super Bowl, which I think is one of the dumbest statements that I've ever heard. Now, I know I'm biased because I actually like Lamar Jackson, except when he plays the Steelers. But come on, man. You're telling me that MVPs don't mean anything unless you win the Super Bowl? I just don't believe that. Having said that, that's the pressure. That's not our fault. That's the pressure that he's under. And that feeds right into the Steelers' hands. It's like, hey, sorry, pressure's on you. We have nothing to lose. Nobody thinks the Steelers are going to win this game. Nobody believes they should even be here. And nobody believes anything about the Steelers. They have no expectations for us at all. Zero. Other than we're going to Baltimore and get blown out. That's what most people believe, that's what's going to happen. We're going to Baltimore to be the sacrificial lamb of their first playoff game, and we're going to get blown out. Well, okay. That's actually a good position to be in if you're a Steeler. Is that no pressure? All the pressure's on them. And if the game gets tight in the fourth quarter, 10 minutes to go in the third quarter, Steelers got a 3-point lead. Into the third quarter, Baltimore up by a point. 7 minutes to go in the game, the Steelers lead by 3. Let's see how they react in the playoffs. It's one thing to react like that in the regular season. It's another thing to react like that in the playoffs. How is Lamar going to act? How is that defense going to act? How are we going to react? Are we going to have confidence? And if we have a lead, are we going to put our foot down on the gas pedal and keep the pressure on? That would be one thing to talk about because, again, we know that Mike Tomlin has a tendency to play not to lose versus to just go win a game. And if that were to happen, I don't even want to discuss it. It would just be an absolute nightmare. But yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers have an opportunity, and I absolutely believe that this is the ideal situation for them. But that's me. Let's find out what you guys think. Let's go to the poll question. Minus the late season slide by the Steelers, do you believe that the Ravens matchup is actually advantageous? Answer A, yes, 3, or B, no, 3. Again, minus the late season slide by the Steelers, do you believe that the Ravens matchup is actually advantageous? I just think that it is. I really, really think that it is. And again, you guys answer the way you want to answer, but I think it is. Just the familiarity of all of it. The pressure is all on them. All the pressure is on them. And us, the scout and the preparation is so much easier than a team that we haven't played this year. Heck, we not only have we played them twice this year, we play them every year. I just think all of it is to our advantage. Heck, they're going to probably, I would guess, stay at the same hotel that they always stay at when they go to Baltimore. I mean, it's about as familiar as you can get. It's about as familiar as you can get. So I like that for the Steelers. Don't know if the outcome will be advantageous, but I do know that playing them, in my opinion, I think it is advantageous for the Steelers to face the Ravens in the playoffs. Let's move on. Now, here's a topic that we have to talk. Look, I've sworn off not talking about or talking about the offseason until the actual offseason. I said, nope, I'm not doing it. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are talking about it right now, talking about quarterback, line, defense, all these things that we need to do in the offseason. To me, I find it a little disrespectful to the Steelers. But I get it. We're all trying to create content. But my thing is the season isn't over yet. Let's talk about everything that's going on in the season. However, I think we got to talk about George Pickens. I think we got to talk about his future in Pittsburgh. I think that kind of factors in to how this game may go because I came out on record. I said I thought George Pickens quit on the Steelers last week. And the reason that I said it is because George Pickens is a lot of things. A guy that drops the ball is not what George Pickens is. He's not a guy that drops the ball. And some people try to make excuses. Well, the DB's knocked it out of his hand. You get two hands on a football, anything else that happens after that is a drop. And I don't mean, oh, you had two fingertips on it or anything. No. You have two hands on the football. Whatever happens after that, before the play is over, that's a drop. And that's what happened with Pickens. I mean, he was more interested when he's arguing with fans on the sideline. I don't know, man. Let's dive into George Pickens and does he have a future? First thing is, Pickens is ultra talented. There is no question his talent. The way that he can adjust the balls, jump, catch, how he has late hands on these moon balls from Russell. We've seen in the past where he can take a quick slant and go 70 yards for a touchdown. We haven't seen that this year, but we've seen it in the past. He does have excellent hands. He is not a guy that drops the ball, and he's a hands catcher. He can catch the ball with his hands. So the talent, as far as George Pickens, to me, I mean, I'm not going to say it's unmatched because there's other talented guys, even more talented guys. But don't tell me that George Pickens is not extremely talented. He's at the top tier as far as actual talent on a football field at the wide receiver position. You can't question that. You just can't. You just can't. However, he is just supremely immature. The things that he does. I mean, the Chiefs game was ridiculous. Anytime the ball didn't go his way, he turned around to the sideline, screaming, yelling, mad. Anytime something didn't happen. And that's just that's just a little bit of it. I mean, how many penalties has he gotten this year? You know, he's arguing with the fans last game, mad. I mean, the locker room stuff in the interviews, putting the mask over his face, walking away, not acting professional. I'm like, when is enough, man? And there's already the other stuff, and we'll get to that. But just the immaturity on his part is nauseating. And if it's nauseating to me, and I know it's nauseating to you, think of how nauseating it has to be to somebody in that locker room, some of the other players, or the coaches, that this guy just can't keep it together maturity wise, to be at the best of his ability. It'd be one thing if he wasn't talented. Okay, fine. But when your immaturity gets in the way, that's a problem. Hell, you would have thought that he would have learned, because that's why he fell in the draft. I mean, George Pickens was a top 15 talent in the draft when he came out. Top 15 talent. But he falls to the second round because there were so many draft boards out there that were, yeah, I'm not touching this guy. Yeah, he's got a lot to work on. Immaturity issues. Well, it's all come true. And I don't even necessarily blame it all on him, other than you should say at some point you got to grow up. I blame Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin allows it to happen. You know, he allows things like that to happen. And you could say, I don't even know if you have to say, just look at the history. How many wide receivers have the Steelers had to get rid of because of immaturity issues? One of them is one of the best receivers in the history of the National Football League. The Steelers finally had enough of that and had to let him go. Well, I'm sorry, Pickens is not that. He isn't. Now, the next thing is he's a playmaker. He makes quarterbacks better. He does. We talked about his talent, and when he actually puts it together, he can make mediocre quarterbacks look good. He made Kenny Pickett look good from time to time. Think about that. Baby hands looked pretty good when Pickens was out there. Now, you might say, well, he gave him opportunities and gave him the ball. You're damn right he did. When why wouldn't you? Russ, listen, just throw him the ball. Throw him the football. Because he can make, when you're not playing well, and the ball doesn't have to be just pinpoint accurate either. His catch radius is insane. He can make regular quarterbacks look good. Those are just some of the things that George Pickens can do. But he's got to put it all together. It's got to be, the maturity has to eventually hit. But yeah, when he's on his game and when he's focused, he makes anybody look better. But one of the things that Pickens does not do, he doesn't give full effort. And we saw a lot of that last year. You thought, okay, he's taking his cues from Deontay Johnson. We get rid of Deontay Johnson, which hasn't worked out in my opinion. But we get rid of Deontay Johnson, and lo and behold, Pickens is doing the exact same stuff. Doesn't give effort all the time. Now, here's the one thing. I don't understand you loafing on the football field, but I could understand if it was a run play. But it's a run play. It's away from you, not giving the effort. Okay. It sucks, but okay. But when you don't give the effort on passing downs, when we're actually throwing the football, it's almost like, well, I'm not the primary target, so I'm not going to run my route as hard. Well, what if the quarterback can't throw to the primary target and they got to throw it to you and you're over there jogging? And we've seen on several occasions that George Pickens has been jogging on routes. Not, hey, he's running a guy off or it's a run play away, yada, yada, yada. No. We've seen several times when George Pickens is lollygagging on routes. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, if you want the ball, you can't be lollygagging on routes, but yet he does. And it's infuriating. It's mind-boggling. And it's a disrespect to not only the coaching staff, his team, but more importantly, it's disrespectful to himself. He's better than this. But it just doesn't seem like he cares. It seems like he's I don't know, more into the brand game and what's my brand and how, that kind of stuff. And I understand all of that, and branding is important, but you got to do some stuff if you want to have a big brand like that. These wide receivers that have these brands that are going on out there, they're having much better seasons and careers than what Pickens is having. Now, you could say Pickens is being held back by the offense some. You can't deny that. You can't deny that. So that is true. And do we put him in the best positions to make catches? No, we don't. Do we need to move him all over the place? Yes, we do. But he's also got to start giving the effort. He's got to start to care a little bit more and make it more of a priority. He just has to do that. Act like you want to be a Steeler. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I don't know. But at this point in time, his future is sketchy at best in Pittsburgh. Sketchy at best. Let's go to the poll question. Would you like to see George Pickens remain in Pittsburgh for the foreseeable future, considering he shows no personal growth? A, yes, 4, or B, no, 4. I think this is a really good question and exactly how it is worded. Would you like to see George Pickens remain in Pittsburgh for the foreseeable future, considering he shows no personal growth? And he hasn't. He hasn't shown any. Like none. No personal growth in the time that he has been in Pittsburgh. And that's troubling. That's troubling. But kind of is what it is. It is what it is. So, look, the Steelers have an opportunity here. Like I mentioned that the chances of them winning the Super Bowl, 5%, I wouldn't put it higher than 5%. And that's right. But the 5% can turn into 100% if the Steelers get the things that I talked about. Defense get back on track, start creating turnovers, make teams one-dimensional, offense being aggressive, playing ahead of the sticks, getting turnovers, get help from football gods. Because teams aren't winning the Super Bowl that don't get some help from the football gods. Even the best teams that win it, you're getting some help. You're getting some help. So hopefully that is something that can happen with the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. So I think it's disrespectful to just jump into the offseason when we're not in the offseason yet. There's plenty of time to do that. We'll do that when the opportunity strikes. But for now, the Steelers got a playoff game to win. They got a playoff game to win. They need to go and let it all hang out in Baltimore. Empty the playbook on both sides of the ball. Bring out stuff that maybe you installed the very first day of camp that you haven't run since. Bring that play out on both offense and defense. Do stuff that Baltimore isn't expecting. You're in a big-time underdog. The pressure is all on them. Put some real game pressure on the Ravens and then see what happens. You don't know. You don't know how they're going to react. But the one thing that we do know is that history has told us Baltimore doesn't react very well in the playoffs to real game pressure. So let's do that. Focus in on the times that we've been successful against Baltimore, tap into it, and let's go play some football. Appreciate everybody being in here, man. Thank you guys again for everything that you do for this channel. I want to give a big shout out to my producer who's behind the scenes, all the graphs and pictures and videos and the sets that you guys see, man. It's him. Not going to go into who it is, but it's him. It's not me, So does an outstanding job of putting all this stuff together for you guys, man. So you guys get a chance, get in the comments section and just tell him thank you. That's all you need to do. Just say, hey, man, producer, thank you for what you do, man, because he makes my job a hell of a lot easier and helps us get out these videos to get you guys. So appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon. Aloha.